must show people the blueprint rather than talking about it. Do you have a copy? Yes. We now want to translate what is in that blueprint into deliverables. It's not a question of cabinet endorsing the blueprint. It's a question of us disseminating the contents of that blueprint and start implementing in our respective areas. I know of the 8 provinces, if I am correct, Mr. Ngoma, they are likely to be visited by Cyclone Chido. If we are to go as per, it's a prediction. If we are to go by the prediction, and we must make sure that all those provinces are activated. Luckily, as I said, we are not the only country. This is a very good example of a transboundary hazard that we must deal with, because about half the number of the SADC countries are also likely to be visited by Cyclone Chido. So again, it assumes a regional approach in the sense that, as I said, at exactly 11 o'clock, if we are properly connected, we should be hooked onto the SADC Humanitarian Operations Center, so that we compare notes with what Ngoma is going to share with us and what the Climate Services Center has also predicted, and see how best we can marry the two. At the end of the day, if we combine and tie all the loose ends together, we should be able to make the right decisions. I think government in its wisdom has even activated the churches. It has activated the traditional leadership. You can't separate issues of spirituality and disaster risk management. There is a close relationship. So for those who pray the Almighty God using the church must pray for the country. For those who go the traditional way, I think the traditional leadership must find a way of propitiating our ancestral spirit, so that there is decency, there is normalcy in the way we are going to receive the rains. We need the rains. Remember, we are grappling with the effects of the current El Nino induced drought. We want to graduate from it. So we can't then be saying we don't want these rains. We need the rains, we need to be saved from hunger, otherwise it will degenerate into a famine. So I'm sure we now understand that issues of spirituality and issues of disaster risk management, that's why government in its wisdom has roped in the churches, it has roped in the traditional leaders, who are the first and the last responders in all these disasters that we are dealing with. So again, it's another structure that we need to actively activate and make sure we protect the lives of our people, we protect our properties. So I'm sure, Ngoma, as you take us through and you do your impact-based approach, we should then be able to come up with solutions, measures as defined in the blueprint approved by cabinet. There is a pair of measures that we have agreed on that we must implement. Let's translate what is in that document into action. And I can rest assure you, once we apply what that multi-hazard contingency plan, which we all developed, it was not developed by government, it was developed by government and its relevant stakeholders. So it's our document, and we must fully implement it but I kindly request that our response section we disseminate the document. And my major appeal, I know there are a lot of competing interests. This is the time I think Treasury must also set aside some reasonable resources to ensure that in the event that something happens, we are able to assist. And as usual, prevention is better than cure. And this is the right time. All people in areas susceptible to flooding must get prepared now and be engaged. And I know you have given the 17th as the day when we are likely to receive our visitor Chido. So I'm sure as we gradually approach the day, by then our local authorities, I think this is an issue. Those who are looking at the budgets for now must look at they must now look at the system and say, if you want us to approve your budget, you must clear all the storm drains. These are issues of procedure. These are matters very easy to implement. Any local authority that does not clear its storm drains must not have its budget approved. How can you have a plan that does not protect its environment? So I'm sure our local authorities department and our financial advisory services, they are taking note of this, so that as they look at their template for approving the local authorities budget, that person must be asked. There is a lot of flash flooding which comes as a result of a deliberate failure by local authorities to clear their storm drains, and they must be punished. Their budgets must not be approved. We are sick and tired of talking about local authorities failing to clear their storm drains. That should stop, and we should find a way of penalizing such errant local authorities, whether elected or whatever. We must find a way of punishing them. So in a nutshell, those are some of the measures that we also need to put in place. Raising awareness, yes, we raise awareness for our people in our respective areas. But let's make sure that even the evacuation centers that we choose are very easy to locate with the coordinates. I know in areas like Chimanimani, they are very good at that. And let's make sure we have a similar system in other areas. With those few remarks, I welcome Chido to Zimbabwe, to come with a lot of decency, to come with a lot of dignity. And I know our traditional leadership and our churches are praying hard so that we have some normal rains. Yes, we need heavy rains so that we graduate from the current drought. Thank you very much. Without talking too much, is there any room for introduction given our numbers, or we'll be wasting a lot of time? Let's get into the business of the day, isn't it? If you want to know who is here, go through the list of attendance. Okay, so as usual, our torchbearer is the Meteorological Services Department. So, Comrade Ngoma, you can quickly take us through your motion. once you connect us to the shock link around 11, we should then be able to switch over to the shock meeting and hear what they are saying at the regional level. Remember, we are the chairperson of SATAN. So we are all chairpersons. So I'm sure the one connecting us will be able to connect us. Sergeant, yeah. Where is the sergeant? Sergeant, I don't know, Sergeant, I'm going Can you make sure that we are connected? Also, Goma is preparing for, yeah, we can start
Good morning once again, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you've been enjoying the sunshine. I think your prayers have been answered. So we are praying that it's going to be a very good Christmas and it's beginning tomorrow. Christmas is promised tomorrow, right? Before we begin, we'll just touch base on what is the cyclone so that everyone is on the same page. Most of us have heard of cyclone. We know of Cyclone Idai, Cyclone Elin, Cyclone Neo, Cyclone Chido of recent, and many other cyclones that have affected or not affected us. One thing that we note is that cyclones are named according to what? In the Southwest Indian Ocean, they are named alphabetically. So you start off with the letter A every season. So if we are now on Chido, Chido starts with the letter C. That indicates that it's the third cyclone that has affected the Southwest Indian Ocean. Some of the cyclones, that was Ancha, which was named by Comoros, didn't affect us. Then we had Beki, which was named by Eswatini, it also didn't affect us. The third one, which was unfortunately named by Zimbabwe, might affect us. So we're going to be touching base on how it will affect us and what are the intricate systems that are involved. So the first part is the name. It's called a tropical cyclone. That's the free title that we give it. Tropical coming from the tropics region, the region that is closer to the equator, because this system depends on heat energy for them to form and for them to propagate. So the interesting thing is that our Indian Ocean is one of the warmest oceans that we have. What makes it warmer is that if you look at the Indian Ocean, it's that area that is to the east of Zimbabwe, covers India all the way up to Australia. That's our Indian Ocean. So it's covered by a lot of land mass. Land causes the water to heat up, and this then it makes it warmer than the Atlantic Ocean, which is clear, just water passing through. So this difference makes the Indian Ocean to our east more susceptible than the western areas. So if you see any system coming from the west, it's not a cyclone. The only cyclones that affect us come from the east because of the proximity of the Indian Ocean. So the famous one gave us our first introductory measure. That's when we started recording the systems that were affecting us. And this was when we started our color-coded warnings. So our color-coded warnings help the end user know the effects that the system will have. So if we've got green, yellow, orange, and red, most of us know what green means. Green means it's okay to go on. But when it turns yellow and orange, there's something that's happening, that's a mishap, and you now have to watch out. Even if you're approaching a robot, you know that amber means you have to be now attentive. So when we give the red warning, that's when we require immediate action to be taken, and that is to avert the disaster or changes. So the main criteria that we're talking about are the green, the advisory, the yellow, which is the watch, which tells you to be aware that something is coming. Then orange says be prepared. So it will take particular districts. We can't say the whole country be prepared because it means you have to be carrying your satchel, your emergency satchel, your emergency kit, which comprises all your wonderful certificates, your medications, just something that you can carry and run. So we cannot put the whole country in orange. Otherwise it will be a disaster. Everyone will be running in every direction. So we pay particular attention to the areas that are critical. Those are the ones that we say these ones are now in the orange category and need to prepare. And then red is given for particular ones that will be now affected and influenced where action has to be taken. That way we consolidate our efforts. So one of our biggest challenge was the rainfall situation. Long back we used to say just 50 millimeters of rainfall is enough to cause a warning. But if you put it into the Zimbabwean context, 50 millimeters is normal for us because just the past November we were receiving hundreds and 120s. In Masvingo we received about 121 millimeters that caused the flash floods that we saw. And in Rushinga we had 42 millimeters and we saw floods as well. But the significant things that cause us to need to act have to be beyond. That's the likes of Idai, which reached about more than 200 millimeters in a space of 24 hours. So again, if it's just 50 millimeters, we'll advise you that rainfall is coming. When it's now above 150, we'll move into the orange category and say there's something that you have to pay particular attention to. And if it's beyond the 200s, that's when we'll give the red warning for you to be alert. So these are the criteria. We'll touch base on those later. The effects. When it's in the green category, not much in terms of flooding is expected. Then when we move into the yellow, we expect localized flooding in low-lying areas and in the areas that the Chief Director was mentioning that haven't been cleaned, where we know that our drainage is not cleaned, we might get flooding in those areas. Also, when it turns orange, that's when we expect larger areas to be affected, especially the wetlands. We know some wetlands in Harare where we've got people staying there. Those are also affected. And also, when it turns red, that's when we have the effects like the ones that we saw in Idai, and we have landslides and mudslides and different aspects. Also accompanying these cyclones, we have the aspects of lightning. Lightning is because of the heat energy that we're currently having, added to a little bit of moisture. It will be similar to you pouring a little bit of water on your hot stove, and you see the kind of violent storm that happens on your own stove. That's the violent storm that will be happening in the atmosphere that induces the strong winds and the lightning that we also experience. But interestingly, cyclones themselves have an inherent circulation. That is the most destructive part of the cyclone. That circulation has got wind speeds that can reach up to about 136 knots for the likes of Idai, which was a very intense tropical cyclone. But when I'm speaking of knots, for most of us it doesn't make sense, huh?
Yes.
So imagine yourself driving your car at these speeds. So the likes of Idai was reaching about 300 kilometers per hour. The current one is an intense tropical cyclone which is above 210 kilometers per hour. So imagine your father or somebody you don't even trust driving a car at that speed. Or even yourself, you know that something wrong is going to happen. So these are the wind speeds that we're talking about. So fortunate for us, our wind speeds do affect us a bit, but because of the direction that these cyclones come from, it affects us less and less as ground causes a retarding force. So let's move on to Chido. Current position, it's just to the northeast of Madagascar, and it's going to touch a city called Ansarinana, which is to the extreme north of Madagascar. And what speed is it traveling at? It's moving at 20 kilometers per hour. That's the speed that it's moving laterally, but it doesn't involve the spin speed. So how long will it take to reach Zimbabwe? Distance from Ansarinana. Apologies for those who come from Madagascar if I'm mispronouncing that. It's 1,919 kilometers from Toko. So you can approximate how far it is from Harare, knowing your distance from Toko to Harare. So it's beyond 2,000 kilometers away. And at that speed, it might take a bit of time. We are approximating that it will reach Zimbabwe, to start affecting Zimbabwe from 16 December, from around 12 noon going into the 17th of December. The effects will be felt whilst it's still in Mozambique and parts of Malawi. But however, initially, the track that you are seeing right now was going along the coast of Mozambique. It was inclined this way and coming that way and coming out in Maputo. That was about 2 days ago. This current trajectory came in yesterday and into today. So these parts can change. It's like you've got a naughty child at the moment. This is our naughty child in weather, where you leave him in one place, the next second is up on the roof, the next second is in a tree, the next second is under the chains, on top of the sofa. That's how cyclones behave. I think most of us remember Tropical Cyclone Fred, which did a dance around in Zimbabwe, went to Mozambique, then ended up in Malawi and caused devastation in Malawi. So these cyclones can move in a haphazard manner, especially when they touch land. So the biggest thing that we need to highlight is the effects after it touches land. So it's going to touch the first land, which is Madagascar. That will be today at around 2 p.m. That's 12 Zulu. So around 2 p.m. that's when we're expecting it to touch the first land mass, and from there we'll know how it's been deflected or what effects that land mass has had on the cyclone. And then we can project better in terms of rainfall, in terms of direction, in terms of whichever path it will take. So the current wind speeds that it's spinning at is between 210 to 220 kilometers per hour. That is whilst it's still close to Madagascar. And with these wind speeds, the destruction is unimaginable. You get trees being pulled out, roofs being blown off, water is being carried from the ocean onto land, and the disasters are unproportional. But when it reaches Zimbabwe, it's projected to be moving at about 45 kilometers to about 50 kilometers per hour, but this might change. So we'll continue to monitor this and advise you better as the weekend progresses. So what are the effects of these wind speeds? If you have between 70 to 90 kilometers, trees are pulled down. If you've got 90 to 120, you get trees pulled by the roots. And if it moves to about 120, it's widespread damage, you get all sorts. And if it's beyond 120, almost nothing will be present. In terms of rainfall, during this period, we're expecting current projections. That part that the cyclone is going to cause is going to receive beyond 175 millimeters of rainfall until it touches the second landmass, which is Mozambique. Once it touches Mozambique, because it's a larger landmass, it will lose most of its water there. And when it now projects across land, that means it will have less water and less and less and less until it reaches its final dying point, wherever it dies at. So currently, because of the unpredictability of its direction before it touches Madagascar, our current watch areas are Manicaland, Mashonaland East, Mashonaland Central, Mashonaland West, as well as Harare Metropolitan. All of them are in the watch category. They are not yet in the alert category yet. Once we move into the alert, we'll remove some of the provinces and we'll specify maybe even the wards that will be affected most. Just a brief for the Christmas period, comparing to what we're expecting now. We're expecting a wetter Christmas than what we're expecting because of this system. So, Department of Civil Protection, I apologize for spoiling your Christmas. We'll be on high alert this Christmas. And with that, I think it's almost time to switch over to our talk. Thank you.
Thank you.